Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Ishura Season 1, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, in the beginning part of the episode, we're kind of getting a little more lore expansion, explanation of this world. We kind of find out that I saw a term in this episode we hadn't heard previously, and it was like minion, and it's like the minion people are, I guess, the equivalency of humans in this universe. That's kind of like their term for them, and not unless they're not exactly human, but they're humanoid enough to be, because it's obviously, like, you know, we learned last episode Sojiro is like a visitor, like he's human enough, but he's from a different world. But the people of this world, so that's why I'm like, I don't know if they're like human, are they this world's version of humans, or are they kind of even a different species than you would even consider humans? Like, maybe that's why they, once again, it's a different world, so different terminology. But turns out that it mainly populates around one of the only remaining kingdoms, and that's Eurasia. And there were apparently two other kingdoms, but I think the true Demon King ended up wiping them out. So this is like the only main kingdom left. But even then, that's kind of got some issues of its own, because Terran ended up kind of leading this like separation with her kingdom Lithia, which is kind of like its own principality. So that has kind of led to some complications, because people from Eurasia, specifically the officials, because they had this interesting stance about the queen isn't the one that kind of dictates a lot of stuff. She has like 29 officials that do. So I wonder, is she like, does she really have any power, or is she just like a figurehead? I mean, 29 officials that really run things kind of make it seem like that's the case, because we see two of them like officiate, like trying to determine how to handle the Lithia situation, specifically Terran. So they're trying to set up an assassination attempt, but it's like, oh, assassinations don't have to be quiet. We can make it look like an accident, and accidents can happen in a big way. So make this big thing happen that disguises this assassination as an accident. So, and they're listing off people like, well, it could be this person's like, no, that person's unavailable. Let's leave them what they are. Especially what was the main dude that we kind of run into this episode. Hargent, he's like a general. He's all hunting a dragon, which they were like, wait, why? We find out later on why, because he's going after a very specific dragon. What's it like? Vikion, who is like a notorious monster in this particular region, and he wants to bolster his name for a hero. Because this kind of ties into an overarching plot about like someone's got to fill that throne that the Demon King left. Because Terran's kind of got the name of like the self-proclaimed Demon King, but it's like, no, Terran doesn't give herself that title. The citizens do. So, because it's like, wait, even the true Demon King was like self-proclaimed, but the person Lana was kind of like, yeah, well, no, it wasn't Lana, was it? It was like Luna. No, it was Lana. Was saying like, yeah, but that's because that person was only that person could be really described as a Demon King, because they were really that person. I didn't really know until they kind of broke it down in this episode too, that no one knows who actually did it. Only thing is, like, there's rumors about, okay, the person who killed the true Demon King, but no one knows who they are, their name, or even what they look like. So, and I think maybe that speaks volumes that the person who did it doesn't even want the notoriety for it. So what was their reason for it? Maybe they're going to be tied into some of the heroes that we meet throughout this season. Like I said, based on the episode titles, it seems like every episode we're going to follow, like, it all ties into a larger plot, but it's like very episodical in regards of we're going to be following different characters all on their journey, kind of learning a little bit of their backstory and understand where they're coming from as they go towards this ultimate goal. Because Eurasia is basically holding like a challenge. I guess it's going to be like a tournament between all the gathering heroes, and they're trying to find a champion hero. So, and that's where like Hargent is trying to put himself in that like same vein, put himself in a high enough position, I guess, to participate. And he thought going after Vikion, like this dragon, would do that. It's sad, like his entire squad got wiped, especially because we even got one of his squad's name, like her name was like Peke or Pikia or something like that. I'm butchering it right now, which is kind of even sad, but like she's the one that spared his life. She pushed him out of the tent before Vikion like wiped them all out. That's heartbreaking. It's like, oh man, that really sucks. His entire squad got wiped. But I guess I shouldn't be too surprised because you had the whole situation last episode. The girl that like kind of had a thing for ended up getting brutally murdered, and she was like the one person we like got named who got named in that out of like last episode. So it's like, just because you named it doesn't mean anything. That's why I was actually surprised like Hargent ended up making it out of the episode. I was like, oh, I thought you're done when like Vikion comes to you, and like even he's kind of mangled, because that's why they came after him. They heard that he was injured, so it was a perfect time to strike. But I wasn't expecting that. Home dude's missing an arm. He's got like a spear stuck in him. And I was like, that's wild. And he's like, wait, did a champion do this to you? It's like, no, it wasn't like something as stupid as basically a minion didn't do this to me. I would not be so disgraced. Turns out it was a wyvern. I was like, that's interesting. Like, I mean, there is no, I was about to say, like, we deal with wyverns on wyverns. Yes, this is Vigion's a dragon, but you still get the point I'm making. It's still like, obviously, even the creatures of this world like beef with each other, but I mean, it makes sense. I mean, any animal hierarchy will have that. There's the prey, and then there's the predators, and just going to be like creatures that just don't get along. It's just all fighting to survive, just like the minions are as well, the humans. And at the end of the day, we never really found out why the person who we find out who it is. It's the title character of this episode, Alus, the Star Runner, who's a wyvern, who's born a little different, but it's like ever since they were born, but like born with like 3 like upper arms on their body, and is willing to grab whatever they want. He's kind of going to different like dungeons, like he's kind of like almost like a treasure hunter, but it's like anything I want, I go after. And I'm like, is he going after Vikion just for the claim of being able to put him down? Like, why did he escape? Is that why you didn't finish him beforehand? Because you came back now? Because Hargent is trying to do his thing too, but like he can't do anything. He summons up like a giant crossbow, and that does nothing. Which also, like, once again, it finding out that it's not even just the human equivalency in this world. They're not the only ones that could do the... Because there's word arts, but there's also thermal arts. That's the term I couldn't remember last episode, but it's thermal arts. There's even... He even says that Atlas does something specific. I forgot what it was. A different arts, too. It's like, man, there's, like, so many, like, categories. Like, I don't know if these are, like, subgenres of the... or subcategories of like the biggest in general. It's word arts, and it seems like there are categories underneath it, like thermal arts, this and that. Like they are branched off into different. It's kind of probably like, it's like the term magic, and then there's different elements of magic of like, oh, this is fire magic, this is blizzard. It's probably like the equivalency of that. I mean, obviously thermal magic is the equivalency of like fire magic, so that's probably like the probably easiest way to kind of break that down and kind of explain it. But and like, I just wasn't expecting, like, for one, the dragon Vikion to do it, or even Atlas, or even the other wyvern we met this episode. Oh, God, I'm going to butcher the name again. It's like Ragniji or something like that. That lead wyvern, which we'll talk about his section of the episode in a little bit. But either way, Atlas, I'm not saying Atlas, Alus is just kind of hands it to the dragon, because the dragon's like so pissed because his pride's been hurt, and he, even Hargent was even aiming at Alus, because it's like, right, I don't need your help, I want to handle this on my own, which it seems like they have history. Like, he's like, because Hargent's like, I've kind of known for like basically killing a whole bunch of your kind, like, why would you help me? Because he's like, oh, we're friends. It's like, no, we're not friends. Like, there's some history there that we're not getting the full picture of. But yeah, he ended up hitting the, like I said, the Dragon Vikion with like a magic poison bullet, which, if you don't know anything about me, I love the notion of magic bullets. I will always go, it always makes me think of like Outlaw Star with the caster shells. Then like, there's kind of like, my other introduction to that would be like Final Fantasy Tactics, where you had like characters who could like fire bullets and also magic would happen at the same time. So like, magic guns and stuff like that. It's really interesting. But it kind of reminded me of that, the poison, and then he kind of cast an art to basically make the poison erupt and like messed him up, and then later on, like in an instance, like used a very specific sword to slice him in half, because he's like because of his adventures. That's kind of what he is. He's kind of like, he kind of feels a little Indiana Joneses. It feels like that's kind of like the go-to, like when you think adventurer, like that's probably the best example to use. But he kind of gives me that vibe with all like the adventures he's been on and like places he's raided, and all the labyrinths he's been to. But like he has like some like shield of the dead which blocked the blast for him and Hargant, and then he sliced home dude in one fell swoop with a special sword, slid him in half. It's like, Jesus. And it's like, Hargant, what were you gonna do? And Alus was kind of talking about like maybe they'll meet again because he's going to go somewhere, and he ends up going to where Yuno's town where her and Sojiro were last episode. He comes there into the aftermath. Obviously, they've long since moved on, but he comes there in the aftermath, and I wonder what was he aiming to go after. Maybe it was like very much like the reason why he went after that dragon this episode and previously was probably the same reason why he was coming to town, because maybe he had heard about it, or maybe he had known that golem was going to come to life. Whatever the case may be, maybe that's the prize he was looking for, but all of that's been taken care of by Sojiro. So what he was aiming for, maybe that'll make him decide to go after Sojiro, because it's like, right, you kind of took my prize, and I usually want to be the first one to grasp something, but someone else grabbed it before me. Maybe he'll just move on. I don't know. They must be somewhere decent. I mean, who knows how much time has passed in between episode 1 and 2, so they could be like a lot further away, and plus they're on foot, at least the last time we checked, so, or at least that we're aware of. But yeah, we get introduced to like 3 other characters, but we don't get to spend a lot of time with them. That's like the aforementioned Lana. We also had Shulk, and what was the third dude? Higure. And we never really got to see them in action because they're being chased by wyverns and then outlaws. But those outlaws, I'm like, how did you not see those wyverns all the way back there? Were you just so focused on like, oh, this carriage is here and we're going to steal from them, that you're not noticing the wyverns until they roll through and start ripping you to pieces? But then another group of wyverns, which apparently Aracia has... Well, it's not Aracia, it's Alithia has control of them, as kind of like, I don't know how that happened, because they're much like Atlas. They are cognitive. They can speak. They can also use like arts and stuff. But I guess when I think arts, because like my immediate thought was like thinking like more Final Fantasy and just thinking magic. But I'm like, well, with the name arts, I could just think of like the Trails / Kaseki series, where like orbal arts and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know why that didn't immediately come to my mind, especially considering I'm in the middle of playing Trails in the Reverie. That should have been my immediate thing, especially considering how I'm obsessed with that franchise. But either way, tangents and all that aside, Reneji, like I said, I'm always feel like I'm butchering it, but like that wyvern ended up kind of being the commander. Apparently different units have their different leaders, but like they're so okay with killing like the riffraff because it's like, oh, you're wild, where they've been kind of tamed. Maybe that's the thing of the difference of we're people. Maybe we were able to be tamed and because we are the special. Maybe they're special amongst the wyvern. There are those who are just like wild ones, and then maybe there are those who are just cognitive and can talk and have like I don't know what, because I was about to say it's actually specific arts that let them communicate, because that was the whole thing that brought up last episode of Sojiro. It's like, right, we speak different languages, but we're able to understand each other because of that. So even though like there would be a language difference because you are from a different world and not this one, so they sound like they're speaking like a normal human tongue, but they're not. Well, Armenian tongue, it's like, no, they're just speaking their own tongue. It's just the arts of it all like allows them to communicate seamlessly. Like there's always an active translator active because of all of the arts stuff, especially word arts and stuff. Like I brought up last episode, there's just a lot that gets thrown at you, and you're just smack dab in the middle of it, and we're just slowly world building out. That's why I'm so curious. It's a light novel structured like this too. Like it's because I feel like the process of like jumping into a world, usually a lot of stuff eases you into it to some extent, I guess. Maybe I don't know. Like I'm just not so used to something just like throwing you in the middle of things, just kind of like when shit hits the fan so quickly. But once again, maybe it's just been so long since I've just watched like an anime that I don't have some prior experience with, especially like a 30-minute episode anime just throwing you into things. But anyway, because of the erasure of it all, it's kind of put Lithia in this interesting spot. And that's actually why Shulk and Higure were brought in, because they're supposed to be helping deal with that threat. It's like, right, the outlaws are just a symptom of like someone hiring them, and they know that it's Aracia that hired them. And obviously we know there's going to be an assassination attempt. So I wonder if they're going to end up hiring one of the other characters we're going to get to know throughout the show, because I know the based on the, one, that's the benefit. They don't show you what, like, they don't preview the next episode fully, but they will give you an idea, because the next episode is going to revolve around Reganege, like the Wyvern. So maybe we'll learn more about him this episode, because obviously Alus ended up, even though he pops up quite late in the episode, it still kind of revolves around him. So we got a little bit with him, but obviously he's the one we learn the most about. I mean, we learn a little bit more about Terran as well, but that's just, I'm sure that's going to be a later episode discussion too, because I think what we see in the ending credits, because I think last episode's ending credits ends up being the opening, and we've got the actual end credits now, and all the people we're seeing both in the opening credits and end credits are going to be our main characters. Like I said, it seems like it's just episodical. There will be crossover. I just don't know if we'll get any of that this season. It might just be the beginning of the series is very like episodic, introduction to this character, because there's so many characters that they all need their individual episodes to shine, understand who they are, and then eventually bring them all together. Not less it's like the first few episodes are like this, and then the later part of the season, maybe the back half, because there's only 12 episodes if I'm not mistaken for this season. So either all 12 episodes are going to be like that, or like only some of them will be, and then eventually we'll start getting into like some, I mean, like I said, it's like world building and like plot development is happening, but it's like you don't really know the grand scheme of everything that's going on, so it's hard to say, are we really making progress? We're only 2 episodes in, so it's not quite, it's quite hard to tell where this goes. Once again, having no prior knowledge to this story, it's like kind of like I say, you're just thrown into the deep end. So, but I'm really interested to see where things go, kind of learn more about this world, like all the other different species that live in this world that are also able to use arts and be like can talk and just be cognizant, like like the wyverns, like what other creatures are kind of out there that are exactly like that. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.